Venezuela's economic collapse is one of the most catastrophic in modern history. We're talking about an 80% GDP contraction, worse than the Great Depression, worse than the collapse of the Soviet Union. And here's the kicker. Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves, 303 billion barrels, more than Saudi Arabia. So, how did a country swimming in black gold end up as one of the poorest nations on earth? Let's rewind to 2013. Hugo Chavez, Venezuela's socialist leader, had just died. His handpicked successor, Nicolás Maduro, took over a country that was already teetering on the edge. When Maduro assumed office in April 2013, the inflation rate was sitting at 29.4%, high but manageable. By April 2014, it had more than doubled to 61.5%. That was just the beginning. See, Venezuela had become what economists call a petrostate, a country that depends almost entirely on oil exports. By 2013, oil accounted for 96% of Venezuela's foreign currency. It's like building your entire house on one pillar. And that pillar was about to crack when global oil prices collapsed in late 2014, dropping from around $100 per barrel. Venezuela faced a critical choice: cut spending or print more money. Maduro chose the latter. Big mistake. The government started running the printing presses day and night, trying to plug a fiscal gap approaching 15% of GDP. And this is where things went from bad to absolutely catastrophic. In 2016, inflation hit 800%, the highest in Venezuela's history at that time. But that was nothing compared to what came next. In 2017, inflation exploded to 4,000%. Then 2018 happened. The official figure 130,060%. Some economists estimated it even higher, over 1,000,000%. To put that in perspective, imagine buying bread for 1,000 bolivars today, and next month that same bread costs 10 million bolivars. Your salary becomes worthless before you can even spend it. Venezuelans started calling their currency the Bolivar Muerto, the dead Bolivar. People were literally using money as wallpaper because it was cheaper than buying actual wallpaper. But Maduro didn't just stand by and watch, he made it worse. In 2014, his government passed the Fair Prices Act, which capped profit margins and forced businesses to sell below replacement cost. Sounds good in theory, right? Wrong. Manufacturers couldn't cover their costs, so they simply stopped producing. Store shelves went empty. The scarcity index for basic goods skyrocketed to over 80%. Imagine walking into a supermarket and finding 80% of the shelves completely bare. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Surgeons performed operations without anesthesia. People were dying from preventable diseases. Child mortality spiked. Crime exploded. By early 2019, about 5,000 Venezuelans were fleeing the country every single day. Every single day. As of now, more than 7.9 million Venezuelans, roughly 25% of the entire population, have left the country. That's the largest refugee crisis in Latin American history, and one of the largest displacement crises in the world. Meanwhile, PDVSA, the state oil company, was falling apart. Technical experts were replaced with political loyalists who had no idea how to run an oil operation. Investment dried up. Oil production plummeted from 3 million barrels per day in the late 1990s to less than 1 million. The very industry that should have been saving Venezuela was being destroyed from within. The international community watched in horror. The United States imposed sanctions targeting Maduro and his regime. By 2019, the inflation rate was projected to hit 10 million%. Let that sink in, 10 million%. The economy had contracted by more than half in just 5 years, one of the biggest contractions in Latin American history. Maduro blamed everyone but himself. He blamed capitalist speculation, international conspiracies, the United States, anyone but his own disastrous policies. But the numbers don't lie. This wasn't just bad luck or external factors. This was policy-driven destruction. The monetization of deficits, the expropriation of private businesses, the price controls, the profit controls, the complete abandonment of market economics, every single decision made things worse. By 2024, Venezuela's economy had stabilized slightly, not because of good policy, but because Maduro finally lifted some controls and allowed dollar transactions. But the damage was done. An entire generation lost their savings, their jobs, their futures. Nearly 8 million people scattered across the globe. A once prosperous nation reduced to ruins. Nicolás Maduro's fate was sealed not by political opposition or international pressure, but by the mathematical inevitability of his own economic decisions. When a government destroys the value of money, expropriates businesses, and drives away 25% of its population, there's no coming back from that. Venezuela's crisis stands as a stark warning. Oil wealth means nothing if you don't know how to manage it. And when you replace economists with ideologues, markets with mandates, and expertise with loyalty, this is what you get: economic suicide. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that your entire life savings could barely buy you a cup of coffee. Not because you were broke, but because your money had literally become worthless overnight. This wasn't some dystopian movie plot. This was everyday reality for millions of Venezuelans. And it all happened under one man's watch: Nicolás Maduro.